Hello, welcome guys to the Critic Nation. I'm your host Remington Keyes, and we have a special guest today. It's Linkara, aka Lewis Lovehog. How you doing?
I'm doing just fine. How are you doing?
Pretty good. Helping me interview him will be
Aiden Keyes from TheCartoon105. You can go check out that YouTube channel.
All right. We're gonna start with the interview. So, how did you start making videos?
Well, it started as a pyramid scheme. Use that joke every single time. I need to come up with a new one. No, it started out originally as text reviews in the style of the Agony Booth or Jabutu's movie reviews. Those sites. See, back then, the Agony Booth these days has been doing video for a few years now. And they used to do just text-based stuff, and I did the same thing, but with comic books. Then I discovered the Nostalgia Critic, and I watched it for a while, loved it, and he hosted an Ask That Guy with the Glasses contest. I decided, what the hey, I'd submit to that, and I had so much fun making the Ask That Guy with the Hats video for it that I decided, you know what, why not try turning my text reviews into videos, and it's been going since then.
Now, were there a lot of people talking about comic books in like video form at the time when you started?
In video format, I don't think so. In text format, actually, quite a few. I only discovered later on that was happening, and it's my own fault for not actually trying to seek it out. But no, not a lot of people doing it on video, and I think the fear was, how do you do comic books when there's not like clips you interact with, and it's much more different having to zoom in on pages, or just have the static pages there, what to do for voices and talking and interacting. So I don't know so I'm pretty sure there were not a lot of people doing it, but more people have been doing it since then.
Well, even now, I
could be wrong, and there could be this huge culture of people doing it, and I'm just taking credit for it.
Well, I don't see a lot of people doing it nowadays. You know, I see you and like a few other like little stuff, but I don't really see a lot of bigger people doing it. It's mostly like movie reviews.
It isn't. Having edited a few movie reviews, it's a lot easier to do. It's much much easier to actually just input a clip into something and have your voiceover over that, versus the comic clips where you have to zoom in and have to move things around, or just have a static image for like 5 minutes at a time, and that's not that interesting to look at after a period. Or you might as well just be a podcast at that point.
Yeah, and plus you had like storylines in your videos. How'd you start doing that?
That one started off because I wanted a thing to encourage people to come to watch the show on a weekly basis, because even now I'm kind of saddened by the fact that not everyone watches every episode. A good chunk of the fan base does, but equally people have no reason to come back. It's like, well, I've never heard of random Image Comics character number 394 or something.
Yeah.
So I wanted a reason for them to come back and want to see if they could see the next part of the story. So I decided, well, okay, I'll introduce this robot version of me from the future or something. I didn't really have a backstory for Mechakara at the time. It was just a robot version of me. And over time, I developed what he wanted, what his true purpose was, and how I was going to beat him. And it was very much successful. People really seemed to enjoy it. There was more positive comments than negative ones. And so I just kept doing it for a few years, and now I hear a lot. It used to be back in the day, some people said, well, I skip the storyline sections because I'm just not interested in them. Nowadays, it's more, sometimes I'll skip the review just to get to the storyline part.
What made you decide you wanted to do this as a job? Was it when you were doing like the written reviews? Was it a job, or did it not get until you started doing the videos?
It was not a job when I was doing the text reviews. It was just a hobby. I would have loved to have monetized in some capacity, but I wasn't smart enough to figure out how to integrate Google ads into the thing, and I probably would have made only a few cents on them anyway.
Yeah.
But I decided to do it full time as a job, starting off just by uploading videos and whatnot, because at the time there was Rever and Blip was emerging as a video source, and I had heard so many horror stories about YouTube and copyright notices, I was worried, like, well, I don't want to, put all this work into a video and then have it be taken down because I decided to use a 3-second clip from Batman Forever or something.
Yeah, I understand. We go through that a lot doing our YouTube videos, so...
Yeah.
Yeah, these days I'm starting to upload older stuff on YouTube, and I have to edit every single one of them, usually because of the music in the end credits. It's usually like 10-15 second clips are fine for video stuff, as long as, you keep it limited down there, but anything longer than that, it gets picked up and it becomes an issue for me. Now, I decided to start doing it as the full-time job because I realized I was making more money doing the videos than I was working at Barnes & Noble at the time. and I'm actually one of the weird people who actually enjoys working retail.
Yeah.
So I love the job at Barnes & Noble, and I was like, well, I'm going to get more money, and it's more creative freedom for me to do the videos, so yeah, I'm going to quit and devote it full-time and see what I can do with that.
Now, I know Barnes & Noble sells comic books. Is that how you were, like, getting your sources of comic books at the time, or because you're...
Not really, because they'll sell individual comics, but usually just on a rack, and they're usually at least, like, a month or two behind on what's out there.
Mm-hmm.
So I would use the employee discount to get trades, but not really any of the single issues for review. Occasionally, I would get the review material because we had it in stock. But the thing is, I had this cutoff date thing. Some reviewers have a cutoff date because they're very focused on a period of history. For me, it's it has to be at least 1 year after release before I review it, because that gives time for passions to die down, other people to get their thoughts in on it that I can look up and examine and think of new things about more modern comics that I hadn't thought of before, and it usually works out pretty well for me.
Oh, cool. Do you have any crazy fanboys that when you, like, review a certain comic, they, like, feel a certain type of way that they really like it, so they're, like, hating on you for reviewing it?
Occasionally, not very often, but I've gotten some flack in the past from Frank Miller fans. Not as many anymore. I think the energy kind of died off on that after Holy Terror. And I had quite a few people who were hating on me for my review of Red Hood and the Outlaws, which is understandable. There was massive debate when Red Hood and the Outlaws #1 came out. A lot of people supporting it, a lot of people criticizing it.
Yeah, that had really mixed reviews on it. When I know a lot of my friends like it and a lot of them hate it, so really.
A lot of people at the time were telling me, no, it gets better. I know the first issue wasn't very good, but just read the succeeding issues. And then I read the succeeding issues, and I kept finding new things to hate about it. So if people like it, more power to them, but that's not going to stop me from riffing on it and criticizing it.
Exactly, it's your job.
Okay, what are your strengths in doing the show?
My strengths in doing the show? I'd say I have a decent sense of timing on my humor. I would say, what else? I haven't really thought about this before. What are my strengths? I like trying to pull unexpected jokes out of things. Sometimes people will, say, why didn't you make a joking reference to one thing or another, and usually it's because, I didn't think of it, or I thought of it, but I thought it would be too obvious, or I couldn't find a way to make the reference, clever or something. Yeah. So, pulling kind of weird humor in that regard for something being unexpected in that regard, and maybe turning some of the more bizarre lines of comic books into running gags. For example, there's one I still use today from the original New Guardians review. What new spore of madness is this? Or more recently with All-Star Batman and Robin #9, damn you and your lemonade.
What are your weaknesses in doing the show?
Part of the reason that the show has managed to go on for so long and has actually reached over 300 episodes is that I'm very dedicated to releasing an episode every week. The problem with that is that it sometimes comes down to, well, screw it, the script may not be as strong as I want it to be, but got to get the episode out. So some episodes are not as good as others. Sometimes it'll surprise me when people say that some of those episodes are like my best ever. I'm like, really? Because I can think of a dozen other episodes that I thought I did better, but well, you're the judge.
We're our own critics, you know?
Yeah. Other weaknesses, especially in the storyline, I fear I have this problem of being a bit repetitive in terms of certain plot points. I'm trying to do better on that. I was always worried that most recently with the King of Worms arc that it would be too similar to the Entity arc, that it would just be considered a ripoff, that a lot of my dialogue is just expository, and there's not a lot of development in other areas, and the twists aren't twisty enough. Those kind of things. I worry about that, and sometimes I will really reach for a joke sometimes, and I could do better in that.
Yeah.
Where do you see yourself? Where do you see your show in 5 years?
Hopefully, still doing it. I mean, in 5 years from now, I probably reach the 500th episode by then.
Yeah.
I would love to still be doing this in 10, 20 years from now. As I recently said, I don't burn out. I just set more things on fire. Now, that being said, it's certainly possible that I could burn out at some point, but I try to find ways of getting around that. One way that's helping me recharge myself is something I'm going to start doing annually. When I did the March of the Titans 4 episodes, where I looked at the entire history of the Teen Titans,
I watched that.
From the original books to my favorite incarnation of the team, the Devin Grayson era, that really reinvigorated my love of comics and my love of doing this show and trying to dig humor out of the bizarre things that happen in comics. And it was popular with people, with the fan base too. So I decided, well, I can't, because the show is about bad comics, I can't do this all the time, but maybe once a year I'll do a big retrospective on a team.
And that was one of my favorite episodes, actually, is when you did that.
Yep. And in fact, what I'm doing right now, as we are speaking, I am also writing the first of, well, it's technically the second after March of Titans, the Romtrospective, where I look back at Rom Space Knight, a licensed comic book series that had massive effects on the Marvel Universe that are still felt today, even though the character himself legally cannot be in comics anymore.
And, what was it? James Gunn said he wanted to put that character in Guardians of the Galaxy, but because of rights issues, he couldn't.
I know, it's a damn shame, too, because Rom would fit in Rom would be a very interesting character to have in Guardians of the Galaxy, because he is one of the most noble space-based characters out there. So seeing him interact with the Guardians would be very kind of odd in that regard.
Yeah. Well, if I'm right, didn't the comic book do better than the actual action figure they were trying to promote?
Yep, the action figure itself. In fact, I bought one off of eBay to have for the show because I wanted to have the prop. It's not a very good toy. It's okay, but the thing is, even by the standards of the time, it was criticized as being not a lot of articulation, it being kind of huge, and just making a lot of goofy electronic noises. But it's kind of revolutionary in that it was one of the first electronic action figures ever made. But the toy itself was just not very popular among people. But the comic book itself was wildly popular. So make of that what you will.
If you could put your show on television, would you do it?
Maybe. It would depend on how much creative control I had on it. There would also be a few issues in terms of timing and trying to set up commercials and whatnot. It would be a very different kind of experience, especially because I might have to cut down on expressly segments of the review strictly to fit in storyline stuff if the storyline continued on it. At the very least, I might have some better lighting, microphone, and camera equipment. That would be nice.
Yeah,
that would
get paid more probably too.
Indeed.
How do you get picked up by... how would you...
how did you get picked up by Channel Awesome?
At the time, it was an open... that guy with the glasses, as it was called at the time, had an open submission policy, because they only had about a dozen or so reviewers on the site, so they were always looking for new, different sorts of shows. So I had about 10 episodes by that point, and I submitted it to them, and apparently Doug Walker watched my Batman number 137, I believe it was, episode, and he apparently laughed his ass off on it, so they decided to offer me a position on the site alongside both Phalis and Ed Glazer at the time. I think all three of us were introduced on the same day, and people liked us. So
Nice.
there you go.
Cool.
Now, you don't have to say much about this subject, because it's probably a sore subject, but you heard about Phalis leaving and a bunch of other people leaving the site?
Half of that is just really bad timing. It honestly was. Lindsay Ellis, the Nostalgia Chick, had been wanting to break away from the Nostalgia Chick label for quite a while, and she's been doing more work doing editing and whatnot. And while she wants to continue doing videos and work on the sequel to her book Awoken, she decided it was time to finally, cut ties, stop being the Nostalgia Chick, and properly end things. And apparently she worked it out with the higher ups that their stuff would remain on the site for a while, but they would that she would retire the character and she'd officially leave. Kyle Colgren was also thinking of doing the same thing, and so he decided to put in his resignation. Then there was a bit of drama. More or less, what happened was that Obscurus Lupa was having a lot of management disputes with the management, understandable and disputes with them, stuff that a lot of us were quite frankly upset about. And then the management in turn did not handle things well, and they fired her.
Mm-hmm.
She's actually made a big post about it. You can read for yourself about that.
I'll put it in the link. I'll put a link to it in the description below.
Yep, you can make your own determinations about that if you want.
Yeah.
But having been there in the chat, yeah, everything that happened in that chat is entirely accurate. Now, and of course after this argument, she was fired. And Phalis left, had put in his resignation the same day. He hadn't been posting anything on Channel Awesome itself during the last month or so, just because he realized that he wasn't actually getting that much additional traffic from Channel Awesome itself.
Mm-hmm.
So as a sign of solidarity, he left. Andrew Dickman also left because he had also been having issues with the higher-ups, in particular Mike Michaud. And as he posted in his transcripts, he basically had a one-sided conversation with Mike. And by conversation, I mean Andrew posted his stuff and posted questions to him and never got an answer.
Huh. Cool.
Now, people have been asking me, well, why haven't I or anyone else left as a sign of solidarity with them? Well, a few reasons. One, we just got a huge influx of new producers to the site, and there's already rumblings and worries among people that that the site is going to collapse, that this community that people have become invested in over the last several years is going to just completely fall apart.
Yeah, I heard that.
And these other producers, they have no stake in this kind of thing. They just want to promote their stuff, and they were really excited about being part of Channel Awesome. And I don't want to
as they should
leave the site and leave them in the lurch, and confirm for them the fear that everything is crumbling to pieces. Now that's the first part of this. The second part is that Channel Awesome, to me, I made a Tumblr post about this too. Channel Awesome to me is not Mike Michaud. It is not Rob Walker. It's not even Doug Walker. Doug is the most popular producer on the site.
Yeah.
But he is not the site. There's a reason why we stopped being that guy with the glasses and became Channel Awesome. Channel Awesome is the producers on it.
Yeah.
It is the community that we are all a part of. And I want to try to turn things around, and I want to try to encourage better things. Will I be successful? Not necessarily. Will the site collapse? I don't think so, and I'm going to try to make it so it doesn't happen. If it does eventually happen, well, it's a shame. Maybe something better will rise from the ashes if it does, but I'm not ready to give up the ghost, so to speak.
Yeah, you guys do a really good job. Some of the producers, even some of the new producers we've noticed, have been doing really excellent jobs. And I don't think it's going to collapse. You guys got too much good talent on the site, you know?
That being said, I think we all agree that we do want things to change, and already a few things have been, started to go up. We finally started promoting some of the other producers.
Yeah, I saw that on the little sidebar there.
Yep, we finally updated the sidebar. And Doug has been doing promotional videos to encourage people to check out these other producers. I'm kind of iffy about the giveaway idea, but hey, it's not my call to make.
Yep.
And hopefully in the future we'll do more anniversary vids.
I was just about to ask you that, how it's going to affect the anniversary videos.
Well, we haven't done one since the Uncanny Valley, which I actually was asked to be a part of, but I was working on my first DVD at the time, so I couldn't devote time to produce an extra video for it.
Mm-hmm.
But they're hoping that maybe not this year, but maybe in next year or year following, we'll have another big anniversary movie. Doug may not be at the helm of it, but there are a lot of talented people who are saying, I'm willing to spearhead this, I'm willing to contribute to this, and I would love to be a part of it in the future. And we all agree the anniversary films are a fantastic way of keeping the fan base interested, rallying them, and giving them more things to be entertained by.
Yeah, me and my brother have been trying to get on Channel Awesome for a while, but we're going at our own pace. We're doing good right now, so.
Yeah.
How's your movie going? Speaking of, anniversary movies, how's your movie going?
That's another thing. I'm hoping that this year, since we're not going to have a proper anniversary movie, that my movie will help with that, especially because we are going to have several Channel Awesome producers, and former ones, because Spoonie is hopefully going to make a cameo in it. Unfortunately, he is not a main character in the script that I wrote, but Allison Obscurus Lupin is one of the main characters in it.
Nice.
Yep, as is Nash, the Cinema Snob, Angry Joe, and Mars Girl. So we're pretty happy about this. Everyone seems pretty happy with the script as it stands.
Yeah.
And so far things are pretty good. I've been right now booking flights and just booked the hotel stuff today for people who are going to be staying with us. I've sent another email off to the crew who's going to be joining us, and those people are We Shot First, who helped us out with Boldly Flee, including the
cool.
awesome Mechakara makeup from that.
Yeah, that was a good movie. That's one of our favorite Channel Awesome movies.
Yeah.
The thing about Boldly Flee, though, that I like to say about it is because it's 3.5 hours and it doesn't follow a traditional structure, I prefer to see it more as a mini-series than a single movie. Although I have watched it with other people and had varied reactions. Will Wolfgram and Amethyst, who are part of quote-unquote Team Atop the Fourth Wall, both watched it with me because they had not seen it before, and they absolutely loved it. But then when I tried to show it to Iron Liz, who is a former producer and a former member of Team Atop the Fourth Wall, she hated Boldly Flee.
Really?
Yep, she thought it was very pretentious. She thought it wasn't very funny. There were funny moments, but that it could have been a lot better, and that Suburban Nights was the best we had done.
Yeah, I'm kind of like...
People have different tastes and people have different likes. Even members of Channel Awesome who were in the movie itself didn't like to Boldly Flee.
Wow. I've heard Phalis talks about it, but...
Yeah, Phalis loves to make jokes about it. And to be fair, I'm not... Just because I like the movie does not mean I am blind to the criticisms for it. The favorite joke of Phalis that he loves to bring up is the safe that falls on him at one point in the movie is like the first stock image you can find on Google Images.
Is your
groundbreaking special effects.
Is your Indiegogo finished?
It is. We finished it about 6 days ago, just about a week ago.
Oh, congratulations.
It ended with 63,000. Although to be accurate, because Indiegogo takes a cut of that, it's more like 60,000 or 59,000 or so.
Mm-hmm.
But that is still much more than I thought we would actually make and much more than we needed, so we're reinvesting that money into various other areas. I'm expanding the bridge set for Comic-Con 1 a little bit. Originally we were going to have originally the bridge was going to be fairly incomplete, that there would be like several wall sections that we just have to keep rotating around to try to maintain that it's a closed set. Now we can afford to have it about either a closed set or a 90% closed set. We haven't decided yet because set designers like, I'm not sure if I can get it that big in time for the filming, but the other things that I wanted to do with it we can do. There are a few story things that we are still doing just for budgetary restrictions and time. But you'll see those on screen when they happen, and I'll have in-story explanations for them. And if people don't accept it, well, oh well, I tried.
So we know you're a big Power Rangers fan. You do History of Power Rangers. So what's your next one on it?
History of Power Rangers next one is going to be RPM, which will premiere on March 19th.
Okay.
Which I've watched only the first episode at the time of this podcast. So I've only seen The Road to Corinth, which is a really good start to the season. Now a lot of people on Ranger Board, which I also hang out on, were actually quite surprised when I said at the end of the Jungle Fury that it's considered a divisive season, since everyone over there really, really loves RPM.
Yeah.
But I have gotten such a mixed reaction from people. From my fan base, because I have a lot of people who say, "Oh man, I can't wait to see you rip into RPM. I hate that season."
It's because I don't want to spoil too much, but it's the first half is really good with the budget, but I heard the second half, because the first half used so much of the budget, second half didn't have much, so they couldn't really add as much, you know.
It's a bit iffy in that regard, but I'll be getting into it during the video itself. But basically, there was a lot of behind the scenes tumult, as it were, that to happen. Basically, a lot of shake-up, and the showrunner, Eddie Gazzara, I believe his name is, he was actually fired halfway through the season.
Wow.
And no one is entirely certain why he was fired. Not even Eddie himself knows why. He's given an interview about this. Even the problem that he admitted he had was that scripts were falling behind, and he admits that was his fault. He says they never went over budget. But even when he fell behind on scripts, he worked it out with the Disney higher-ups to set up a schedule for finishing them up and getting them back on track, and he did so, and then they just fired him out of nowhere.
That's weird.
It is. So we're not sure of the exact details there, but I'll see for myself creatively how this plays out in it, because even he admits that he didn't want to tell the new showrunner where things were going, not because he was like, well, I'm not going to share my vision with it, but because as rather, well, he's the showrunner now, he should decide for himself what he wants to do with it. I'm not going to tell him what to do.
Right. Which Power Rangers series was the hardest for you to sit through for History of Power Rangers?
Operation Overdrive. Oh my God. I mean, I'm gonna have many thoughts on Samurai and Megaforce when I get to them. But the thing is, Megaforce is just disappointing with the things that I find irritated by it. But Overdrive was actively obnoxious, and I dreaded having to watch more of it.
See, that's the only series I haven't seen of Power Rangers.
It's probably just as well because it's not very good. There are good episodes in there. There are enjoyable ones that I would say if you're going to watch it, you're going to enjoy these ones. Mostly because they have a very classic Power Rangers goofiness behind them. The Pink Pirate, I think is what its name is. That is a very old school Power Rangers kind of goofiness. But other ones, you will learn to hate Dax Lowe in every scene he's in because he is always, always, always mugging for the camera, always overacting. And it seems like if he had someone who was properly directing him, he might have been half decent, because when he's actually restraining himself, he's not bad, but otherwise he's given free rein to just be irritating in every other scene. And of course, Spencer, the Alfred of the season, he is a delight because he's genuinely funny. But it's still not worth it for overall, because I just hated Overdrive.
See, my worst one was Megaforce. You know, watching it the first time it was bad, but once I got the second time around, it seemed a lot better, but still wasn't perfect. You know.
I will have many words for Megaforce. Mostly speculation about what went wrong, but also a lot of criticism for it because Samurai I'm giving a little bit of leeway to for a number of reasons. One, the Sentai was difficult to adapt to Western audiences as it was.
I thought they did a good job with Samurai.
Yeah, Samurai was... Yeah, it was good.
Two, Saban hadn't really done anything like this in years, so they were trying to throw themselves back in with a difficult series as it was.
Mm-hmm.
And 3, apparently the production time was very, very fast. Apparently they only decided to do it like 6 months before it was supposed to premiere, so everything was very much rushed. Megaforce they had no excuse for. They had 2 to 3 years to get their asses in gear and get on track and learn what they were going to do and have a proper plan for how things were going to go. And they did not. They did not get their act together, and things just just seemed kind of baffling, the creative decisions they made.
And it seemed a little rushed.
Yeah, and it feels very rushed, which again, they had 2-3 years to plan, knowing that Gokaiger was coming up.
Yeah.
Yeah. What are your takes of do you know the new series of Power Rangers, Dino Charge?
Yep, I watched the first episode of it when it premiered on Nick.com, which the social media with Power Rangers is kind of funny because they say, hey, we'll release the episode early online if we get 100 retweets. Of course, you've got like thousands and thousands of people. Of course you're going to hit 100 retweets. Kind of setting the bar a bit low.
Well, a lot of people
I don't care because the first episode of Dino Charge was a lot of fun. Not perfect. I still had there was a little bit of awkwardness in some of the things and some of the acting, but I attribute that mostly to them, diving right in. They're still getting used to their characters. But overall, I was very pleased with it, and it feels like things are back on track. It feels like a proper Power Rangers opening.
Yeah.
Well, that's all the time we have. Thank you guys for watching our interview with Linkara. Linkara, where can people find you at?
They can find me at atopthefourthwall.com or at channelawesome.com, but preferably atopthefourthwall.com because I have to maintain the brand.
Thanks for Aiden for helping with the interview. Aiden, where can people find you?
You can find me on a bunch of websites like Instagram, and you can Instagram at TheCartoon105, Twitter at TheCartoon105, and Facebook at Aiden Keyes. And you can find me on YouTube at TheCartoon105.
And you can find me on the various social media sites under Remington Keyes. Thank you guys for joining, and until next time, bye-bye.